welcome to our Ramadan special. As ever, we're going to be talking about learning our culture and heritage in this program. It's a very special and educational series that we are delivering just for our audiences during the month of Ramadan. Today, we are going to be specifically talking about spirituality of Ramadan and fasting, and thinking about going beyond abstinence from food and drink. And today I'm very happy to have Hussein Hoxha, Chair of Cyprus Islamic Association, with us once again in this program. But we've also got Yusuf Ahmed, who is the co-founder of Cyprus Islamic Association. He's going to be coming on as well. Welcome, Hussein Hoxha, and welcome, Yusuf, to the program.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, thank you so much for having us.
Oh, it's brilliant. So like I said to our audiences, we're going to be specifically focusing on spirituality of Ramadan and what that means. So it's not just about not fasting and not eating food, but we're actually going to be taking it a little bit beyond and thinking about why it is that we actually do these things. Our audiences are always welcome to give us live comments, and we are looking forward to having their comments, because obviously we want this to be a live discussion. So if anybody's got anything that they want to ask, then please feel free to do so. But the first question is a very big question, and I know we could do about 10 programs about this, but it's, who is Allah? And I'm going to ask this to Yusuf first.
Yeah, it is a massive question, and you're right, there's people that have written volumes of books on this particular topic because it can be in such a great detail. I guess at a high level, conceptually, Allah is Al-Kabir, and what we mean by that is Allah is the greatest conceivable being, the source of everything that has been brought into existence. And we know Allah and Allah's nature through the attributes and names which are attributed towards him. But we also know through certain ayat in the Quran, which is the book which we refer to, that was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace. And so there's a particular chapter in the Quran, it's Surah 112, which is called Surah Al-Ikhlas, which means roughly the sincerity. And this was one of the earliest surahs that was revealed. It was revealed in Mecca. And what I'll do is I'll quickly recite it, and then I can explain it, and it might help us with our understanding of who Allah actually is. So, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Qul huwallahu ahad. Allahu samad. Lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. So, Qul huwallahu ahad. Say that Allah is Ahad, the unique, the one and only, the indivisible. Allahu Samad, Allah is the eternal, the absolute, the sustainer of all existence. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. Allah does not beget and was not begotten. Yani he does not give birth and was not born. Wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. And there is none co-equal or like or comparable or equivalent unto Allah. And also, we see in Surah Ashura in Ayah 11, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ huwa Samiul Basir, that nothing is similar or like unto Allah in any way, shape or form, and Allah is all hearing and all seeing. And many imams and scholars throughout history said, whatever you imagine in your mind, like a physical, if you're imagining something physical about Allah, Allah is different from that, because Allah is beyond the physical realm. Yes. Allah is beyond the universe. The universe is the totality of time, space, and matter. The universe was brought into existence. We know this. We know when Edward Hubble was looking out into the universe in the 1930s, when we saw the red shift, we saw the universe was expanding, and it came from a point of singularity. And the most popular theory is the Big Bang, that the universe came into existence. And so what brought it into existence is something which is beyond time, matter, and space. Something which is beyond atoms, something which is immaterial. And the best way I can try to explain this is if we think about the mind. If you're imagining that you're walking down a corridor and you're seeing doors on the right and doors on the left, where is that corridor? You can't tell me it's in your brain, because there's not a corridor in your brain. Where is that? It's immaterial. It doesn't actually exist in the physical world. And similarly, there are many other immaterial things, concepts, numbers, values, moral values, for example. These are all things which are what Plato referred to as, in the Neoplatonic world, forms. And we believe that Allah is also an immaterial being that willed the universe into existence. And we know that Allah is also the most merciful, the most compassionate. Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Al-Malik, the King, Al-Quddus, the most holy, As-Salam, the source of all peace, Al-Jabbar, the compeller, Al-Ba'ri, the evolver, Al-Khaliq, the creator, and so on and so forth. We know all these names. So as you mentioned, we could have lectures and lectures upon this, but essentially Allah is the greatest conceivable being.
Yes, and I mean, I like to think about it in a spiritual way. Whenever I think about God, I don't think about him as a man or a woman. And I think very often we do, don't we, sort of say he and refer to him as he, but actually it's beyond, like you said, time and beyond the physical world. He's beyond all of that. Hussein Hodja, have you got anything to add to this?
No, I mean,
Allah?
we got like 99 attributes to his name. He's got 99 names, and that's what, he just went over a few of them. And God is everything. You cannot, you can't even imagine what the power and the force that he is, the unseen force that he is. And it's beautifully put by Yusuf. Thank you. Very nice.
And I think what's important is when you are getting closer to God and you are becoming more spiritual and getting closer to religion, it's important to think that because he is that all-powerful being, that it's okay to speak to him and to speak to him about any misdoings that you've done or anything that you're thinking about. It's okay to actually, speak out, because that's when you become close to God, is when you actually talk, because he knows your thoughts anyway. He knows what you've done anyway. So I think it's important to have that dialogue with God, definitely. And when you think about it in a spiritual sense, then it becomes more clear that, you are of one with God and you can say whatever you want. So, and obviously, through the month of Ramadan, we are going to be reflecting on our own behaviors, and that's specifically what we're focusing on today, is spirituality, as well as the act of fasting, Hussein Hodja, and we're cleansing our minds and bodies and our souls. That's what sort of we're thinking about a lot more tonight. Could you tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are on spirituality?
I think spirituality really is a personal relationship with the Almighty. And you just emphasized on some really, really important things about speaking to the Creator. We believe in him. We shouldn't be afraid to speak to him. And a lot of people, especially who are watching us, who don't know the prayers in Arabic, this is the biggest problem you have with the language barrier. People have misunderstood the religion and actually pushed people away, saying, if you don't know Arabic and you don't know the prayers in Arabic, then you shouldn't be praying. And this is what's distanced a lot of maybe the youth and our elders in the times, that they've actually been disconnected from their spirituality. Spirituality means to speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any language that you know. And that's called dua. And you can do that while you're walking, while you're talking. You can do that while you're laying in bed. You can speak directly to him. And that spirituality is connecting to God. It's connecting without someone being in the middle. But the most important thing about spirituality is, as well, is connecting with yourself. And spirituality is very important, because once spirituality is actually different from being religious, because the term being religious sometimes does scare me, because when I think about how I was 25 years ago, my mentality and my thinking, my rational thinking of religion is very different from what I believe today. I was not a very nice person, maybe sometimes. I demanded everybody to believe how I believed. There's also this kind of ideology that you find in every religion, not only Muslims, but especially with people who have become newly practiced or very, very zealous, that the whole world has to become Muslim. Everyone needs to convert. You have this with the missionaries as well. It's their mission, isn't it? It's their mission to conquer the world by making everybody believe exactly how they believe. Now, that's not spirituality. That's forcing your ideology
Yeah,
on
onto
someone.
something else. Yeah,
Spirituality, once you have the spirituality, you have the connection between the Almighty, then you start loving everything that the Almighty has created. And if you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Almighty, and we do believe, every religion believes that God is Almighty. And we say in many of our prayers that He's the Almighty, He's the one who writes our qadr, He's the one who our destiny is in his hands. So hold on. If Allah had wanted to, He would have made everybody one race. He would have taken away different religions and kept one religion.
mm,
So why are you're actually judging? You're not only judging people, but you're actually judging God's creation, and you're actually judging God. You actually have a problem with the Almighty because you actually want to do something that the Almighty has already left, and He's fine with it. He's fine with
mm,
having different religions because He says it in the Quran. These are the
yeah,
Ahl Kitab, and these are the ones who, I will fill my paradise and I will fill hell as well. He
mm,
decides who's going to hell, and He hasn't given
yes,
anybody the golden key. And that's what people
mm,
need to understand. That once you have a spiritual side of Islam or spiritual side of Christianity with you, you go away from these kind of crazy ideologies and ideas that you have to perfect everybody else but yourself. We need to perfect ourselves, and that's spirituality. Connecting
that's
with
right.
ourselves, looking after
Mm,
our bodies, loving ourselves, and then loving the Creator. And once you love the Creator, you will love all of His creation. Because that's how I do it. I love every single creation of God, no matter what color they are, creed they are, or religion they are, because He created them for a purpose.
yeah, definitely. Hussein Hodja, some very, very good, valuable points there. We've got lots of comments coming in. Ali is saying, Hayırlı Ramazanlar. Nejla, Hayırlı Ramazanlar. Erin Meto is saying, with spiritual leaders and religious scholars like Hussein and Yusuf, you can understand why many of our community are re-engaging with Islam. That's good to know. Another great program by the Eurogenç team. Sid Bebet has said, well said, Hussein Hodja, religion shouldn't be oppressive. And Zehriban has said, Halal olsun hocam, well said. So we're going to go into more depth with this. A lot of our viewers are agreeing with us, but please, if you have any specific questions for Yusuf or Hussein Hodja, please write your comments here and I will voice them and I'll relay them. But really, as well as the act of fasting, so we're fasting. So we are cleansing our bodies, but thinking about our mind, body, and soul as a 3-unit, what does this mean? If we start with the soul, Yusuf, can we discuss this? How do we self-grow spiritually within our souls?
Yeah, it's a really good point, because observing Ramadan isn't just about abstinence from food and drink during daylight. It's so much more than that. You have to have the spiritual aspect to it as well as the intellectual. So as Muslims, we must also attempt to rein in the bad habits like swearing, lying, gossiping, fighting, laziness, etc. And also try to focus on good habits like safeguarding the environment, feeding the homeless, donating to charity, and so on and so forth. Muhammad, upon whom be peace, stated, "Innama bi'ithu li'utammima saliha al-akhlaq," which means I was sent to perfect noble character. In fact, innama, according to the Arabic language, is adatul hasri, which means I was only sent to perfect noble character, noble conduct. And Muhammad also stated that on that day, yani Yawm al-Qiyamah, the day of judgment, nothing will benefit you, illa, except if you bring qalbun salim, a sound heart, a sound heart. And if you're backbiting or you're cheating or you're lying or you're gossiping or you have jealousy or hatred or envy or animosity, all these things, you do not have a sound heart. You can try and say as much as you want, Benim kalbim temizdir, my heart is clean, but the reality is it isn't if you're doing any one of those things. So how do you rid yourself from that? Ramadan is the perfect opportunity, because it's not that we just do this in Ramadan and then we continue to normal. We do this throughout the entire year. But if you think of it, maybe perhaps in a work context, when you're working at the end of the year, sometimes we have an annual review and we reflect on how we've performed that year. And we think, what are the goals that we want to set for next year? But we're still, trying to strive for perfection throughout the year. So what we do is this is referred to in Islam as tazkiyah al-nafs, which in English is the sanctification or the purification of the soul. And tazkiyah, the scholars have described this as pruning a plant. So if you think about a plant, you're pruning, you're taking off all the bad bits, you're removing the bad bits in order to promote growth. And this is what we're talking about in terms of spirituality, so that we can become better people. And being Muslim isn't saying, oh, I'm perfect. That's is quite the opposite. You're saying, I'm not perfect, and I want to live my life according to these ideals in Islam. And there's a difference between Islam and Muslims. You know, Islam is the ideals, is the way that we wish to live our lives. Muslims, you have good and bad Muslims everywhere. Do not judge Islam based on Muslims. They're two different things. So one thing that we have a problem with, and even in the Turkish Cypriot community, or the Turkish community more widely, is judgment, judging other people. A good Muslim, somebody that follows Islam, does not judge, because in Islam it teaches that you should not judge people. If someone is doing something which you believe is wrong, you don't know what's going on in their lives. You don't know what troubles they've had. You don't know what difficulties they're going through. You're not the person to judge them. In the Quran, in Surah Al-Fatiha, the first chapter, we recite it in every single salah, every single namaz that we pray. We recite this, and we say, Maliki Yawmiddin. That Allah is the owner, the king, the sovereign of the day of recompense, the day of judgment. That Allah is the one that judges. No one can judge except for Allah, yet we think that we can judge others here on earth. We want to point our fingers, but when we point, there's three fingers pointing back at us, because we're constantly looking at other people, picking out faults at others. Always looking at other people in the community. Look at yourself. What's wrong with you? So this is why, and we often also hear this statement. Before I get into a little bit more detail, and then we can move on. We often hear this statement that, you know, ben namaz kılmam, I do not have to pray namaz or salah in Arabic. Çünkü benim kalbim temizdir, because my heart is clean. Right? We hear this a lot. We hear this a lot. And the thing is, right?
It's
been showered with the conditions.
Exactly. I mean, if you're putting it in the dishwasher, that's fine. But at the end of the day, at the end of the day, in the Quran, it states, Allah does not need our prayers. Allah does not need our salah, our namaz. And there is a distinction, and Hussein Hoja beautifully touched upon that. In the Quran, it says, indeed, prayer forbids indecency and dishonor. That the prayer is for us. It's part of the purification of the heart. That's why you're doing it. And so you're right that as a community, sometimes we observe people that are just looking at the physical. You spoke about mind, body, and soul. And there's some people that are just focusing on the bodily aspects of Islam. And perhaps they might be going to the masjid, the mosque, and they might be engaging in these physical gymnastics 5 times a day, but they're not praying with their hearts. And so they come out and they're still causing corruption. They're still dodgy. They're probably more corrupt than some of people that don't go to the mosque. And on the flip side, you've got people who say, I don't need to do that. I'm going to be a good person. And the best person to answer this false dichotomy is none other than a great imam from the past, somebody called Imam Malik. And Imam Malik, who wouldn't like to be referred to as the founder of the school, the Maliki school, because he would say that he was already following the methodology of the people in Medina al-Munawwara. But there's 4 main madahib in the Islamic tradition, in the Sunni tradition. That there are more, and others, some amalgamated, some have died out. But the Maliki school is huge, and it's predominantly North Africa, and it's the second largest school in the world. And one of the great proponents of this was Imam Malik, who was born 95 years after the Hijrah and passed away around 179 after Hijrah. And he stated, whoever studies and observes tafaqquha, jurisprudence, the physical aspects, the rulings, and they didn't study or observe tasawwufa, the spirituality, then they will be corrupted or hypocritical. And whoever studies and observes spirituality and didn't study or observe the jurisprudence, they will become a sinner or heretical. Whoever does both will reach the truth. And that's the point. It's not a dichotomy. It's not a dichotomy at all. Imam al-Ghazali said, if you're praying 5 times a day and you're still doing all these things, there's something wrong with your prayer. You're not praying with your heart.
It's more of a routine, isn't it? Like you said, when we were discussing earlier, we had a very long conversation. You said it's like doing exercise. You're just exercising, but you've got to truly understand and believe in what you're doing and practice it outside of the mosque. So it's not just about going in and praying. It's also practicing all of those things and truly believing it. So it's about that. So the soul, it's about self-reflection, self-growth, being at one with your spirituality. How about the mind then? You know, once you feel secure in that, you know, seeking the knowledge, you know, ignorance versus knowledge, how would you sort of come about that? Because I do find that people who are cruel and mean are normally the ones that don't actually have the facts in front of them. I do feel like knowledge is power, and once you have the knowledge, then you become more open-minded and more liberal. But what would you say about the mind? What do we need to do as Muslims during Ramadan and the whole year for our minds?
And I think the two go hand in hand, right? So I think that spirituality without engaging intellectuality, the aql, the intellect, you know, means that you're not really going to get the full benefit, and vice versa. So from the spiritual perspective, like we were just mentioning, you've got things that you're trying to rid your heart from, like al-ghadab, anger, and al-hiqd, which is like malice or having ill will towards other people, wishing bad upon them. And Muhammad, upon whom be peace, stated, none of you will enter into Jannah unless you believe, and none of you truly believe unless you love for your brother what you love for yourself. Why is this so important? Three things I'm going to mention. Yeah. Number one, none of you truly believe. Your iman, your belief, your whole belief is on the line with this particular statement. Number two, unless you love for your brother what you love for yourself. Brother here in the Arabic doesn't mean male. This is male and female. Yeah. It's the same in Turkish, actually. If we say Kardesh, right? I think there's a famous Turkish music group.
Yeah.
You'd Seven Kardeshler. There's females and males in that, right? So it's not just males. Kardesh can be sibling, okay? Yeah. And it's the same in this statement here as well. And the third point, and most of the classical scholars, in fact, Imam al-Nawawi included this in his 40 ahadith collection, his top 40 ahadith sayings that are attributed towards Muhammad, and he included it in there. It's hadith number 13, and he said in the commentary, as well as many others, that brother here does not mean your brother in Islam. It's your brother in humanity.
Yeah.
So it's love for everybody, and this comes back to Hussein Hodge's point around, if you really love the Creator, you love the creation. But coming back onto the mind, as you asked, with the mind, the Quran speaks out against people who do not use the rational faculties that they've been endowed upon. For example, in Surah Al-Baqarah, it says, say, bring your dalil, bring your proof if you are truthful. It demands proof, because this is a faith that's not a baseless faith. It's not unjustified. It should be based and grounded within reason. It states as well that God lays abomination upon those who do not reason. It states that surely the worst of beasts in Allah's sight are those that are intellectually deaf and dumb and do not reason. Obviously, it's not referring to people who are physically deaf and dumb, but those that do not wish to listen to the truth. Yeah. Or those who, when they do hear it, they do not wish to admit it.
Yes.
And in the view of the Quran, the ears which are unable to listen to truth and which are only used to listen to sort of absurd and nonsensical things, they are deaf. So using your intellect, using your faculties of thought, is what distinguishes us from the rest of the animal kingdom. That's what makes us human. And if we don't do this, then we're nothing more than just beasts. We're nothing more than just other animals. So using the mind, using your intellectual capacity is so important. And that's why the Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace, stated that seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave, that seeking knowledge is obligatory on all Muslims, and that the ink of the scholar is more sacred, more important than the blood of a martyr.
Yeah.
So
basically saying that, don't always think that you know the answers. Like even in my profession, for example, as a teacher, I'm forever looking at new techniques. I'm not saying, oh, because I've been teaching for so many years, I know everything. We're forever learning and forever seeking knowledge. And that's what that point is making, isn't it? That from the minute you're born to the minute that you die, you've got to be seeking for knowledge and always be hungry for learning new things and be open-minded.
Exactly.
Can I add a couple of things? Yeah, go on.
Yeah.
Go on, carry on yourself.
Well, I was just going to say one last point, and that was that in order to really be open-minded, you have to have an open heart. And this is why after Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah Al-Fatiha, in the second chapter at the beginning, this is a book for those who have open, who want clear understanding, and essentially people who have open hearts. That's what it's referring to here. If you read the first few verses, you have to have an open heart. If you have an open heart and an open mind, then one may be able to seek truth. But if you're closed and you're narrow-minded, and unfortunately, there's many Muslims that fit into this category, right? Narrow-minded. That's not the sign of somebody that's following Islam. Islam is all about being open-minded, expanding your mind, and being open to other suggestions. So go ahead.
And I think that's important as well for people who are non-Muslims who look upon all Muslims being narrow-minded as well. I think that's an important point. It works both ways. Hussein Hodja, you wanted to add something to this?
Yeah, you know, speaking about humanity and the concept of just the word brother not meaning, but you know, Imam Ali, peace be upon him as well, has a beautiful saying that you may be brothers in faith, but you are all equal in humanity. And if we believe, and when we read the Quran as well, Allah refers to us as Bani Adam, the children of Adam. He doesn't refer you as the children of so and so and so. So we're one tribe, and we're the tribe of Adam. We belong to, we are all family. And we do need to love and respect each other. You said an amazing thing as well, Aishan. Education is a must, because the first commandment by the Archangel Gabriel on Mount Hira on that blessed Ramadan night was to the Prophet, Iqra bismi rabbika allazi khalaq. Now read, O Muhammad, read in the name of thy God who created you. Read it in his name. Educate yourself. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, peace be upon him, says, for knowledge go as far as China. So there were, you know, he was taking people out of the boundary. It's nothing to do with culture. You know, if you need to go and get knowledge, because there's an argument, you know, with Muslims, everything's in the Quran, everything's in the Hadith. You don't have to look elsewhere. Well, then the Prophet wouldn't have said, go as far as China to find knowledge. And China, you know, it was far. It's a distant place, a different culture. But with today's technology, we see we are taking lots and lots of knowledge from non-Muslims today, from medical sciences. But when you think about it, the first early Muslims, because the emphasis was to seek knowledge, they went and they took the ancient books of the Romans, of the Greeks and the Persians. They became the best scientists. They created the best universities, the first universities. And some of these universities were created and established by women. Can you imagine? The University of Fez in North Africa was established by a woman. The University of Cairo, the Al-Azhar, is named after a woman, after the Prophet's daughter. This is the richness that we had. And while Europe was like in its dark ages and medieval period where the church had oppressed science, Islam was finding amazing technology, sciences, writing books that were once forgotten, and we were flourishing. And that's what we need to find again. And we can do that through spirituality.
Yes, definitely. I mean, we've got lots of comments. I'm conscious about going through some of these because we've got some questions now. Gul Nil has put, thank you for this program. I want to get back into my religion, but I don't know where to start from. What would you recommend? So that goes out to the both of you. What would you say? We'll start with Hussein Hodja. What would you say to her?
Well, I will look at that and send you some links. We've got some amazing groups, Turkish Cypriot groups, Islamic Cypriot groups that you could follow. We're going to be having weekly talks. Aishan's really kindly give us some space on her TV. We're going to be here every week in Ramadan, even after Ramadan as well. Let's all stick together and help each other as much as we can.
Definitely. Yusuf, there was a really good point that you were talking about with me about reading the Quran and how it's not just about reading the Quran. Can you just explain that a little bit? Because I think it will be very useful for Gul as well. And I found it very useful today, that point that you made.
Sure, no worries. Yeah, I think there is a danger of people just running off and going and reading an English translation of the Quran, because it's quite a comprehensive and in-depth book, and one has to read it within its entirety and approach it with the correct tools in order to understand the correct meaning. There is obviously the chance that somebody could read it and misquote or misread and walk away with the wrong understanding. Allah never sent down a book without a messenger to deliver that book, without somebody to explain and manifest those values in their character and in the way in which they carry themselves. And so
it's in teaching as well. Sorry, I had to add that point in.
Yeah, a book never just fell from the skies, you know,
No,
oh guys, just read. It never happened like that. You need a teacher. They say there's an Arabic proverb that if you don't have a sheikh, shaitan is your sheikh, because because you need to have a teacher, somebody who is learned, somebody who has studied this to the correct detail to explain it to you. Look, if it was brain surgery and you know, you wanted to conduct brain surgery on somebody, we're not just going to send you off with a book and say, you know, read this and then you can go and perform it. No, you would go and learn from specialists. If it was law, if you had to go to court, you're not just going to sit down and read legal books and go. You'd go to a qualified solicitor or a bar or whoever. And it's the same when it comes to the deen. You have to go to the people of knowledge, because the scholars, the people of knowledge, are the inheritors of the prophets, and it's these people that can give you the correct understanding. And this is why we have certain groups that are misguided and doing bad things in the world, because they're not qualified.
Yeah,
and they're not exactly, and they're not using, as we mentioned before, the aql. They're not reading the Quran holistically.
Definitely. We've got more comments. This one is Fatima Mehmet has said, a great understanding of the Quran. Yusuf, thanks. So that's a thumbs up there. But Zulal, hopefully I've pronounced your name properly. I lost faith when I had an arranged marriage, but now I understand that my family were jahil, and means ignorant, and ready to engage with my religion. I'm ready to engage with my religion and understanding Islam. You guys are brilliant. I think therefore I want help as to where to start. I mean, this sort of goes into my next question. What sources should we look at to learn about Islam? And that's open to the both of you. We'll start with Hussein Hodja and then move on to Yusuf. What sources should we look at to learn about Islam?
This is the biggest problem we have in the UK, because the UK is open to different groups. I mean, you can go on Google and search Islam, and you're going to find an ocean of strange stuff. Some of it good stuff. I think the best thing to do for Turkish Cypriot, I'm addressing the Turkish Cypriot community, is to actually go to a Turkish Cypriot mosque, maybe, or something that's been established by Turkey. Speak to a Hodja that has some understanding of the Hanifi fiqh, which is what most of the Turkish Cypriots follow, because it can cause problems. If you don't go to the right places, you can find yourself in some awkward situations, and then you're not actually finding peace in your life. You're actually in a state of war with your family and with yourself. So there are certain groups. We'll send the links underneath.
Yes,
please
definitely.
Contact us. We've got a group of fantastic guys and sisters who are there to help you, and I'm sure Yusuf can give some more information on this.
Yes, Yusuf. I mean, that question of which sources should we look at to learn about Islam, I think that's quite important. Yeah,
I mean, actually, in the New Testament, in the Bible, it says, "By the fruits ye shall know," and I think this is totally applicable here. I mean, we all have this inherent radar, if you like, as to what feels right and what doesn't, and you need to tap into that. I mean, if people are saying things that don't quite sit right with you, then they're probably not saying things that are quite right. But you know, we're blessed to have people like Hussein Hodja and shows like this, which are presented, hosted by you know, Aisha, etc. So use these resources, tap into them, connect with your community. There's events that happen throughout the year, and especially, I'm not saying that you have to stick with people that are Turkish Cypriot, but there is a benefit in that because they understand the culture, and Orf is an important part as well. So definitely tap in where possible.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we were talking about this earlier, and I want to just quickly make the point. For example, disengaged youth. There is a lot of disengaged youth out there. And yes, they could get into gangs and sell drugs on the street. But at the same time, they could walk into a religious organization that is very radical and then go the other way as well. That could be just as detrimental to a young person as them going into a gang. But obviously there is a lot of vulnerable people out there, people with maybe certain mental health issues, and maybe they don't have the support at home and they're feeling vulnerable and lonely, and they want to be part of a community, don't they? They want to be part of something. So of course they will latch onto something like that and they will think that is right. So it's very important that we through this program and through our links and through what you tell us, Hussein Hodja and Yusuf, through all of the wonderful things that you do, that we can actually inform, especially our youth and people who want to find the religion, the right way of doing it. Like Hussein Hodja was saying, it's not about being radical, it's about being inclusive. It's not just about learning about Islam, but it's about learning about everything in general. You can go to lots of different countries and hear about different cultures, and that in itself will help you find yourself as well. But we were thinking about mindfulness and we were discussing that. I don't know if it's going to be Hussein Hodja or Yusuf. Maybe we'll start with Yusuf. Is there any sort of quotes or any examples from the Quran about being mindful? Because I think that's what we're talking about here, is being mindful about what steps we take in our path of knowledge. Yusuf?
Yeah, I think similar to the ones that I mentioned before. So the idea of these are signs for those that reflect, that you would sort of use your intellect and apply that. There's so much in the Quran that teases the rational faculties of the mind and engages with the mind and makes you question and ponder and reflect, and that's so important. And within the authentic ahadith as well, sayings of Muhammad or actions of him, upon whom be peace, there's so much that we can learn from there as well. There was a statement that the greatest struggle is to battle your own soul, to fight the evil within yourself. And that's not just spiritually, but that's also on the mental front as well. And a lot of us experience negative thoughts. This is something which psychologists are speaking a lot more about these days, and the need for positive affirmations. So I don't know if people engage in positive affirmations. We have this in the Deen, from a Deen perspective as well. So, and we've been practicing this for centuries, but this idea of showing and expressing gratitude is a common practice to help people with mental health issues. And saying Alhamdulillah, if you actually knew what the word Alhamdulillah means, Allah shukr olsun, like if you understood that and you meant that with sincerity, that's a form of expressing gratitude. That's one example, and there's other forms of dhikr. So the whole tradition is filled with statements versus actions which promote positive mental well-being. And it's important that we keep a sound mind as well as a sound heart.
Yes, definitely. We've got more comments coming in because I'm aware of time. I'm just going to go through some of this. Sibel has said the Muslim religion is a beautiful one, but you are right that the ultimate understanding of knowledge and forever learning about different cultures and religions. But what about the bad teachers who are radical? Why doesn't the Muslim imams try to come together and stop this, or even try to revoke the right for them to teach? That's quite a controversial one, but a good question to ask. Thank you very much, Sibel. We'll start with Hussein Hodja. What do we think about that?
I mean, I've always said, even in whatever country you live in, you abide by the rules, and hate preachers should not be given space. Hate preachers should not be allowed in this country. The ones who are coming from outside, the ones who are born here, unfortunately, They should not. They should. The community needs to get together and actually tackle these people, because these are the ones who are causing so much damage, not only to the religion, but to the communities and societies they live in. These are the ones who are breeding hatred, and they're using religious doctrine to actually spread hatred. And this doesn't only exist in the Islamic religion; it exists in a lot of religions. You see it in the Orthodox religion, you see it in Catholic religion, in Hinduism. You've got far rights and far radicals in Hindus as well, which are making such a mess of India at the moment. But I mean, let's look at our problems. Radical people should be treated as radicals. I mean, if they are, and we need to make awareness to our youth, to our people, because there are people who do get trapped by these people, and it does end up very, very nasty for the whole family and then the whole community. And it takes a long time. But you know, with on the subject of spirituality, if we look at the great sages of history in every religion, and Islam as well, and we look at these great personalities, the imams, the scholars, they traveled. And this is really important. They traveled across the Islamic world seeking knowledge, not only the Islamic world, but like from North Africa all the way to China, and in Central Asia. Rumi traveled from Afghanistan to Arabia, from Arabia through the Levant to Turkey, seeking knowledge. And we have this so many times. And these people, they mingled with other religions, they mingled with other people, they took the good from other cultures, they took the benefits from other societies, and they incorporated it in their life and became the amazing people and tolerant and God-loving people that they are. And that's why they're considered as humanists, because they saw beyond religion, they saw beyond color, they found spirituality within their own religion. And that becomes unity in diversity.
Definitely. And Yusuf, we were talking about this, weren't we, in our conversation today, about the fact that actually the Quran is very open-minded, and you were talking about the Prophet and you know the points that he was saying, you know, before. I don't know if we could quickly touch upon that, what we discussed today.
Sure. I mean, just one point that hundreds, at least over 1,000 different imams and scholars do vocally and quite explicitly speak out against the radicalism that we are seeing today. The issue is that it takes one idiot to do something stupid and it'll be all over the news.
Yes.
And that one person will ruin it for everybody. But I could point you in the direction, books that have been compiled where people have issued fatwa, like religious opinions, verdicts, or statements condemning such acts. One example is the Aman message, which is a statement that calls for tolerance and unity across the Muslim world. It was issued in November 2004. It had over 200 Islamic scholars from over 50 different countries focusing on issues of defining who is a Muslim, dealing with issues of takfir, which is where people try to excommunicate people, and extremism. These things happen, but it wouldn't be necessarily on the front page. But the moment that one idiot, who's not even an imam or a scholar, or it's probably someone who's got mental health issues, who decides to go and do something stupid, hey men, front page, and that's what we remember, that's what we see. So I think every imam, every scholar, every sheikh that I've come interact with do tend to speak out against these things. And I don't think I know of a scholar who ever holds those views. Most of the people that are of that perverted mindset are ignoramus.
Definitely. There's lots of positive comments. Mehdi Ismet, all the way from Cyprus, saying hello Aisha, big hello to cousin Hussein Hodja, great show. And Zulal said we should arrange a retreat for our youth, beginners understanding the Quran. I'll help 100%. I mean, that's the sort of things that we want to see, isn't it? The community pulling together. I mean, obviously we have your association, and once quarantine is out, of course we'll be doing, like you said, more seminars, more talks. There'll be a place. But I mean, what would you say, Hussein Hodja, if somebody wanted to sort of join your association? I mean, you've got some pages on Facebook, haven't you? Could we just quickly talk about that? Where could they?
My page is Cyprus Islamic Association, and also we've got the Al Hashim Trust, which is the charitable side. of the association. We've got our brother association called Jazeera Derni, Jazeera Association, that you've had them on your program, and we'll be having them
Yes.
again soon. They look at the cultural heritage preservance and of our history, of our religion as well. We have the Kıbrıs Müslümanları, which is a new group of trying to bring awareness to the Turkish Cypriots of their religious beliefs, of their history, of their culture as well. So they are there, and I mean that is my dream one day. You know, if I could afford it, to build a big retreat somewhere in Cyprus, maybe, where youngsters who've had problems with drugs and other mental health issues can go there, relax in a spiritual environment. No one's forcing religion down your throat. It's just a spiritual, somewhat where you're left to find yourself with people who are scholars, maybe with people who are mental health experts, people who just know how to care and love people. That's what the world lacks. The world lacks love and tolerance. And you know what? My last words here tonight would be, because we've gone over time as well. Thank you, Aisha, for giving us that extra time. Is that, you know, we need to love. We need to show there is so many beautiful things of the religion, and we're only showing the ugly side. There's so many beautiful things that the Prophet has done, but the media would only show you negative things. They would twist things to show negative things of the Prophet. Oh, that he married somebody at this age, or this, but never the good things, never the beautiful things in of religion. Like the story of how the Prophet Muhammad on his way back to conquer the city, and he conquered Mecca without hurting one person. He just walked through and conquered the city. And on the way conquering the city, he saw a dog. He saw a dog with her babies, and the babies were feeding. The puppies were feeding on their mother, and he turned his army. He turned his army a different direction, a longer direction, not to disturb the puppies and the mum. That's love.
Yeah, that's a lovely story. Yeah, that is,
That's
isn't
love.
it? I mean, it's wonderful. I mean, we've sort of touched upon the the soul and the mind. We haven't touched so much on the body, but very quickly before we go, because I know Yusuf is going to do the last message and prayer for us tonight, so we've only got a few minutes, but just quickly, just to be mindful about what we eat, thinking about the body, Hussein Hodja, is there just a quick message that you can give to people? Obviously with halal food, what does that truly mean? What do we need to do during this month?
Halal food means something that's permissible and something that's lawful for you. Maybe in the next show next week we can go briefly over that. It means to eat something that Allah has made it lawful for you. Allah says in the Quran and in other scriptures as well that eating pork is not lawful for you. So we refrain from eating pork. We can eat lamb. We can eat chicken. We can eat things from the sea. That's all halal. Junk food, please, if you're fasting at this moment, it's halal, but keep away from it. It's not very good for you. I mean, Allah asked, not for good for us, full stop. You know, eat from the fruits. This is the blessed month. You know, look after your body. You know, everyone spends money to go to the gym. You don't have to do that all the time. You can spend time buying good, healthy food. That's halal, buying good, healthy food. Now, the thing about halal meat, maybe we can just discuss in the next show. It means a meat that has, or an animal that has been sacrificed in a certain way, where the blood has been drained and the sacrifice has been made in the name of God. We're asking God's making intention to God to sacrifice for this as a source of meat for us to eat, to live. But we'll discuss this because the Jews also sacrifice meat. It's kosher. It's a longer topic, and we can go over that. Spread love, spread peace. It's the blessed month of Ramadan. Make the best of it. Make peace in this world. Life is so short, and we are here only for a short time. Let's respect one another. Even if our views are different from each other, we need to have understanding. And the Quran says that, you know, I created you, all of you, different, that you understand and you show mutual respect to each other.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful Beautiful message, Hussein Hodja. Thank you very much. And we certainly will go into more detail. And if anyone has any requests, they can always comment at the bottom of this program of anything that they specifically want us to discuss, and we will do it in the next coming weeks. Yusuf, your last message and prayer. Thank you very much for coming on my program. And again, I'd like to see you coming on, and we've got to do a lot more stuff because we've only literally just touched upon things. But obviously, we've run out of time. So I'll leave it to you for your last message and prayer.
I'm honoured and privileged for you having me here, so thank you very much. What I'll just do is recite Surah Al-Fatiha and explain the English translation, and then perhaps we'll just do a dua, a prayer in English.
Yeah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم. مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. The English translation of this is the first chapter of the Quran, Al-Fatiha, which means the key, the opener, the beginning. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most kind, the entirely merciful, the especially merciful, the most merciful, the giver of mercy, the Lord of mercy. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. All thanks, appreciation, credit, and praises belong to Allah, Lord, cherisher, nourisher, protector, provider, and sustainer of everything that has been brought into existence. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, again reiterating that Allah is the most compassionate, the most merciful, the giver of mercy, the Lord of mercy. Maliki Yawmiddin, the owner, the king, the sovereign, the only ruling judge of the day of judgment. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. In you alone do we worship, and from you alone do we seek help. Ihdina siratul mustaqim. Show us, guide us on the straight path, the straight way, the path of those upon whom you have blessed, the path upon those the path of those upon whom you have bestowed your favor, not those who you are displeased with or those who are astray. And that is the first chapter of the Quran. I haven't done it any justice, and again we could spend a whole session explaining that in
very
detail.
meaningful, isn't it? Yeah, but I mean, thank you very much for that. It's wonderful sort of last words, and thank you very much for translating it so that we have better understanding of these prayers. You know, that I've grown up listening to it and it sounds so wonderful, but actually having someone translate it and for us to actually understand the meaning behind these prayers actually brings us closer to spirituality and actually understanding of our religion. And hopefully we will all look within ourselves and find the right path for ourselves and be better people in these times. You know, we are going through some tough times, but I really feel that these programs, thank you Hussein Hodja, thank you Yusuf for coming on and providing us with the knowledge, is bringing the community together and actually giving us strength to carry on, and we will conquer and we'll be fine. So thank you very much. That's it from us from Eurogench TV. Thank you very much for all the viewers. Thank you very much for all the comments. Please check out the links that we will put at the top of the program for all the different associations. And also if there is any suggestions of any questions or topics that you want us to cover over the month of Ramadan, please let us know. Either inbox myself, Hussein Hodja, or just put it as the comments at the bottom of our program. So thank you very much. Have a very good evening from Eurogench TV. Goodbye.